So I'd like to welcome you all to room one for the final session of this segment of the morning. My name is Lisa Donaldson. I'm from Dublin City University, sitting in Ireland, and I'm delighted to welcome the final session, who's going to take Tracy Penny-Light, is going to take you to up to 11 o'clock Pacific time, and she's going to work with you around a pedagogy lab. So I do believe you're going to be putting some effort in here. I hope you got your coffee in. So without any further ado, hopefully you can all see the closed captions there. They are available to you. And I'd like to hand over to Tracy.
Great. Thanks so much, Lisa, and welcome everyone. It's so nice to have you all here. This session was really conceived. We've been talking about doing a pedagogy lab for some time, and one of the things that we know in the ABLE community is really valuable is the opportunity to really share activities and get feedback on them or modify them to suit our own context. And so that's really what today is designed to do, to give you some space to share things that you're working on or ideas that you have and to get some feedback from the community. So we'll be doing a little bit of crowdsourcing in order to make that happen. And my hope is that at the end of this session, we'll have a really nice set of activities and or activity redesigns that you'll have access to through the conference portal and be able to use in your own context. So I think it hopefully will be a win-win-win for all of us, because we'll get to hear everyone's ideas and be able to take some things with us that we can use in our own ePortfolio practices. And I know that already looking at the number of people in this room and knowing many of you that many of you have great activities and to share, and looking forward to seeing those. So I thought I'd just provide a little bit of framing. Really, I want us to have this space to discuss ideas for portfolio activities and really collaborate on making them as engaging as possible. And of course, build a community around portfolio practices, because so many of us are doing things. And, you know, even though we're a very sharey community, sometimes things that happen in our context stay in our context. So it's not always nice to be able to hear other people's ideas and to be able to leverage them for our own courses. So I thought I would just share one last little bit that I think will be helpful to us. And I love backward design as an instructional design model. I always think it's a helpful frame for thinking about what it is we're trying to get our students to produce in respect to our assignments. And so thinking about like, what's the outcome for whatever assignment or activity we're creating today, and being pretty clear about that. So what do students know, understand, or be able to do as a result of that learning experience? What will happen? What kinds of assessment will we build into that? So what kind of authentic assessment evidence is acceptable? So that's going to vary from discipline to discipline and in our context. And one thing that we've been speaking about a lot this morning, at least in the sessions that I was in, is the way that we need to think about assessment being very inclusive and equitable. So, you know, one example of from one of my colleagues, you know, doing portfolio activity, they had a really, they thought, great rubric for assessing the portfolios. And they turned out they had a lot of international students, and they recognized that when using the rubric, that it actually in some ways disadvantaged the stories of international students, because it didn't, they didn't necessarily align with the kind of categories that the rubric had designed and developed. So really thinking about what evidence we want to see as a result of that activity, and how we can make space for a variety of students and a variety of perspectives to come out in those assignments. And then we're going to focus mainly today on the activities themselves. So, but I always think it's nice to think about the outcomes and the assessment issues, even though we're at that activity design level. So that's just some framing for you. I could get into design thinking, but I feel like if you have questions about that, we can definitely dive into that later. I really want to get us actually doing the work. So I've created a very rudimentary Google slide deck. And I'm just going to give you the link to it in the chat. And I thought what we could do is just go into the Google slide. And my idea is that you will all get to be in there. And so I'll just show you what it looks like. In theory, I will show you what it looks like. Hold please, I'll get this pulled up. So really just created a template slide. So one half of the slide is your activity idea. So give us a little bit of framing for your activity. And then the other side is a spot for those of us to go in and provide feedback. So what I am going to encourage you to do, and I'll just do that a couple times here, you can just copy the slide and this template slide and paste it in so that we get a number, and you can label it with your name and your institution if you like. And then we will all go in and give feedback. And sorry, I just mucked that up. I don't know why. My computer is running really slow because I think I have too many windows open, and you know, it's like, how do I have access to? But you can see. I'll fix it in the Google slide deck before I mess it up anymore. I'm going to stop sharing because I think that's causing me problems. But you should have the link to the Google slide deck. Did everyone get it? Can I get a thumbs up from somebody to say that you can? Awesome, that you can open it. Great. So I will go ahead and make a few copies of that slide, but really I thought we could spend the first 10 minutes or so just starting to generate ideas for activities. And if you haven't fleshed out, you know, then your activity, you could just say, this is what I'm thinking in the activity idea, and then we can work on feedback. And you should have gotten editing access. It says anyone on the link. Let me just see here. Thanks, Elise. Gotcha. Anyone with the link can edit. See, I thought I was so clever and made it all accessible beforehand, but I failed. So it should be editable now for you. And I see people having success at being in there. That's fantastic. And feel free to fix my flub. But I'm going to now just be quiet and let you go in, and we can all add an activity that we're interested in designing. So what I'm going to suggest that we do next is go into breakout rooms where we can have smaller groups really sharing their ideas for activities. And I would say really thinking and paying attention to, as you flesh out the activity, not just you know, here's what I'm hoping to achieve, but also this is the outcome that it's meant to address. And this is the evidence that I would want to see generated as a result of engaging in that activity. And so when I say evidence, I think, you know, what's the artifact that gets produced that's going to go into the portfolio? And so just to kind of keep that in mind as you give, you know, talk through with your ideas with each other. So I'm going to give us just a little under 15 minutes to go into the rooms. And I just want to make sure that the rooms are set up. So feel free to continue adding to the Google document. I'll put get you into rooms in just 1 second. Okay, so I've just randomly assigned you to rooms. And if there's somebody who you really want to work with and you've looked at their activity and you're like, that is like mine, you can just let me know if you don't get with that person, and I can go ahead and move you into another room. I'm just going to finagle these just a smidge. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the rooms, and I'm going to be circulating around to the different rooms to give feedback. But the goal here, and I'll put this into the chat as well, to just really 1 minute on your activity, and then a couple minutes from your colleagues on some feedback or things to think about, paying attention to the outcomes the activity is meant to address, and importantly, the evidence or artifact that the activity will generate. That can go into the student's portfolio. So I'll put that information in the chat, and I'll send you out to the room. So before I send you, I'm going to put that information in the chat. Again. So I'd love to hear just thoughts from anybody who's opening to sharing about your experience, your thoughts that you had on how that went.
I got some great feedback. I mean, it was great. And because the ideas that I put up were not quite, they weren't completed, and I knew they were missing parts. So this was really, yeah, I loved it. I was told, so it was good. It was a really nice experience. Thank you.
That's great. I'm glad. Did that feedback happen to make it into your shared slide?
No, but I have it on my notes.
Okay,
but I
great.
should put it on the shared slides. Yeah.
That would be awesome, because one thing I mentioned to some of the groups that we're really keen on is creating a repository of portfolio activities that we all can, use, adapt, share, whatever. And so I'm thinking about the kind of structure that activity template would need to have. And also thinking about how many of you might want to join in a community to kind of do that work. So I'll be sending out an email. We'll try and capture who is in this particular room, but we'll send it out to all participants to see who we can, who might want to work on that kind of a project. Because I think it would be really valuable. Like you said, Charlotte, like other people see things in our activities that we don't see ourselves. So I think that that's really, really important. And I did want to, as I was floating around, one thing that I wanted to point you all to as well, in case you haven't yet seen it, is for the last 2 years, ABLE has had a task force on digital ethics working to create a series of principles and then practices related to digital ethics. And as I listened to some of the activities, it reminded me, and I forget to do this myself, that it is important to pay attention to those digital ethics issues and be thinking about how they might be implicated in the activities we're asking our students to participate in. And so I just wanted to point you to that document. I put a link to it in the chat. You can peruse it at your leisure. But I think, I'd also love to think about the ways we can ensure that our activities are, that ethical practice is built into our design of activities as we create that repository. So thanks for sharing. Yeah, Sonia.
Get my mute there. So I just was in listening to you talk and thinking about this repository, which I'm super excited about. I just wonder if you could maybe create a template that says like, here's and I think you talked about this a little bit, but these are the pieces that I imagine should be there, like a short explanation of the activity, the assignment itself that anyone could like then adapt. And then as an example, like obviously getting permission from the student to use their example of what the finished artifact would look like. And then a space for those digital ethics concerns of like, what concerns are there? And then maybe a place for people to comment and add to that digital ethics piece, because we're all learning around that. And I think that it's hard to imagine all of the pieces, but if we have a repository where those things are gathered and then other people can comment and talk about considerations that should be thought about, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I love that idea. And it's also making me think AAC&U has a new project related to the Value Institute that is the assignment design diagnostics, or the add value. And so there is a template that they've got for those value assignments. And so there might be a way to kind of collaborate with AAC&U to bring both of these things together. So if you aren't familiar with the work that Value does, they are responsible for the value rubrics. And if you Google value rubrics, you'll get that information. But yeah, I think we need to do more collaborating, I think, among all of these different groups to really bring these things together, because I think we're all thinking about things that, together, if we put our heads together, will be better all together. So yeah, thank you for that. Andy?
Okay, now I'm unmuted. So I was on a team at my institution. We built a repository for teaching artifacts, and I would love to talk more about that with anybody who's interested, but I will give one quick sort of nugget of advice. Is we set up a peer review process for the artifacts, and we found that was sort of a driver for people, because they could say, this becomes more of a publication then, right? You can say it is in a peer-reviewed archive of digital artifacts, as opposed to I put it on a website. So yeah, I have lots more to say about that. It's still a very new and small resource, but yeah, I think that's a really great idea.
Awesome. And do you all know about Merlot? Because that initially the Merlot repository was also very much about peer review and that sort of thing. And I was part of that community early on, but I've kind of not been in it actively for a while. So again, it would be nice to think about, are there connections between these various pieces? So Andy, I've made a note to follow up with you on that. So thanks for sharing. And then Lisa, you had put in your great book on ePortfolio assessments. Do you want to say a little bit more about that?
Sure. Just when you mentioned coming together collaboratively to collate some of these examples of great assessment, it's what we did across Ireland with a couple of UK editions as well. So we put out a call to see who would be happy to share their thinking about the design behind their assessment. So we kind of did it in a number of different, a certain structure. So there was a kind of a snapshot of who it was aimed at, what platform it used, those kind of basics. Then there's an outline of how the assessment was designed and why, more importantly, that ePortfolio assessment was designed. And finally, then a reflection on how it went and what tweaks perhaps the practitioner would consider doing in the future should it be reused. And all of these fabulously generous ePortfolio practitioners gave us permission to gather all of these together. And I put it together in an ebook to share across the community. So that's the link that I've just popped in there if it's of interest to anybody else.
That's great. Thanks so much. Yeah, I mean, I think this is the thing. We're all doing really interesting work, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel, but rather, sort of build on the great work that's been done already and leverage it as much as possible. Thanks for sharing that. Lisa, do you want to say a little bit more about your recipe instructions for activities?
Yeah, that's when Sonia was suggesting that might be the way to go. We did do that with a conferencing tools workshop and a press book that we created, OER press book, and it was for the tools we support, but many institutions support those same tools. And of course, there's different pedagogical affordances for each of those tools. And so what we did is we came up with a few activities for each of those platforms that people, so Socratic Dialogue, for example, was one, and then how you could do that. And so what actually features did you need? So it starts off with just like a recipe, your ingredients. The features you would need would be the chat and the breakout rooms and the blah, blah, blah. And then you would break it down like a recipe. So the way that we've done that, it's people can just take it and use it and recreate it for their own context. So I think that would work really well for this as well.
Yeah, I love that idea. And thanks for sharing that. It looks like a fantastic resource. And we'll try and capture in the chat all of these things, and then in the conference portal, feed it all back in. We're going to try to do that. I want to promise that it will happen immediately, but we're trying to capture all of the things that come out in the chat and the various sessions so that you have ongoing access to these things. So thanks so much. Anyone have any questions or other comments that they want to make? We're just nearing the end, and Lisa's probably like, now your time is up, Tracy. So I want to make sure you all have a bit of time for a break, but before we move on to our next thing, but last questions or comments that anyone wants to make? Well, I'll just take this time to thank you so much for participating, for sharing your great ideas for activities, and for giving feedback as critical friends to one another. As I said, we'll work on collating these things, taking all of your great ideas, and we will reach back out to everyone to see if there's a group of folks who want to kind of take this up as a bit of a able community of practice moving forward, so that we can build this repository, which I think will benefit us all. So thank you so much for coming, and I hope this was useful. Please do fill out the session evaluation form. We're always trying to improve what we do, and we would love to hear your thoughts about how today worked. So Lisa has put the link in the chat, and yeah, hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
See you soon.